Om. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. There's just a couple of announcements this morning. First, a reminder about the August closure. There will be no Sunday talks and no classes during the month of August. The chapel will be open for those of you who wish to come, and Arati will be observed either here in the chapel or at home by devotees. I encourage you to sign up for, if only initiated devotees may participate in that. If you have been initiated in the Ramakrishna lineage, then please do sign up to do Arati one evening or more during August. There'll be a notice in the newsletter about that, and there'll be an opportunity on the website. So please do take advantage of that, those of you who would like to participate. Now, I'd like to make a special emphasis on my usual caveat this morning. What is said from here, and especially what is sung from here in the song you're about to hear, is not meant as personal instruction for you, something that you should do. It's something for you to take in, evaluate for yourself, and say, this is useful to me, this is not useful to me. Your mind is a good judge of this, particularly if you've been practicing for a while. So this is the caveat, and with regard to the song you're about to hear, it is an attempt to capture how a yogi who had been practicing for some time, the teachings, and by this I mean years, of practicing the teachings of the sage Patanjali and Swami Vivekananda, practicing Raja Yoga. So with that, I will sing you this song. It's called a yogi's song. Most of us are afraid of this world we've made. Most of us are afraid of this world we've made. It's yes and no and karma's blow and temptation's parade. We say it's hard and mean, a heart attack machine, but it can't scare me. I'm sticking with the Atman, believing in the Atman, sticking with the Atman, but it can't scare me. I'm sticking with the Atman, and I shall never die. This Kali Yuga's rough. Each day can be tough. Here's a homeless man in horrible pain. I think I've seen enough. I know it's hard and mean, a heart attack machine, but it can't scare me. I'm sticking to the Atman, believing in the Atman, seeking for the Atman. No, it can't scare me. I'm sticking to the Atman, and I shall never die. Some folks are afraid to die. Maybe this is why they never heard these holy words as if they apply to them. Yes, I know it's mean, a heart attack machine, but it can't scare you if you're sticking to the Atman, believing in the Atman, seeking for the Atman. No, it can't scare you if you're sticking to the Atman, and you will never die. This world is hard and mean, a heart attack machine, but it can't scare you if you're sticking to the Atman, believing in the Atman, seeking for the Atman. No, it can't scare you if you're sticking to the Atman, and you will never die. Our yogis. July has been a month for the study of Raja Yoga, a spiritual path often called the yoga of meditation. As a Raja Yogi, you use ancient, proven spiritual techniques to calm your body, quiet your mind, and gain control of your attention. Regular daily practice of Raja Yoga increases your ability to concentrate and may lead to meditation. This can unite you with the divine presence, the source of your being, and liberate you from the cycle of rebirth and death. In the vocabulary of the Raja Yogi, this state of liberation is called kaivalya, independence, independence of all limitation. So this morning, we're going to take up a bit of Swami Vivekananda's Raja Yoga. To understand Raja Yoga, there are some principles that need to be clear. To understand Raja Yoga, these principles need to be clear. Consciousness is primary. It is not local, and it is not plural. Consciousness is primary. It is not local, and it is not plural. The Atman is consciousness. In manifestation, it is the one buddhi and the one ahamkara, the one intellect and the one eye maker. There are not two. There is the buddhi, which is the firstborn of the great cause, according to Sankhya philosophy, and then having had gained the ability to tell one thing from another, then this cosmic mind, this great cause, says, it is I who am able to tell one thing from another, the buddhi and the ahamkara. Together, they are what Sri Krishna calls, in chapter 13 of the Gita, the knower. The buddhi and the ahamkara are what Sri Krishna calls the knower. Everything else, including all you can experience and that with which you experience it is the creation of the knower. Your body, your human being, with its mind and its 5 organs of action and 5 organs of perception, are aspects of that creation. I'm going to repeat that. Your body, your human being, a verb. Your body, your human being, with its mind and its organs, its 5 organs of action and 5 organs of perception, are aspects of the knower's creation. Sri Krishna calls this the field in which the knower sows seeds of action and reaps their fruits. The knower sows the seeds of action and reaps the fruits. The purpose of Raja Yoga, for that matter, all 4 yogas, is to rid you of the delusion that as your mind-body entity, the jiva, that you are the doer and that fruits of action in any way belong to that jiva. The purpose of Raja Yoga, all 4 yogas, is to rid you of the delusion that as your mind-body entity, jiva, you are the doer and that fruits of action in any way belong to that jiva. As jiva, you are the creation of the Atman, and your 3 states of awareness, waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep, are reflections of that pure consciousness in its creation. As jiva, you are the creation of the Atman, and your 3 states of awareness are a reflection of that pure consciousness in its creation. Tattvamasi, that thou art. To dispel your delusion of doership and ownership is to know the truth. So having said those principles, are there any comments or questions from anyone about what was said? This is the heart of the reason for the practice of Raja Yoga or any of the yogas for that matter. Anything at all from anyone?
Brother Shankara, namaste.
Namaste, dear.
Manjula from Virginia.
Yes.
Just sharing a thought as you are talking about getting rid of the delusion that we are the doers is the crux of Raja Yoga. It sounds similar to my limited understanding of Karma Yoga too. We
Yes.
are not the doers. So I just want you to help us the connection between both. They seem
All 4 yogas, all 4 of the yogas are a way, each of them is a system of principles and practices that help us rid ourselves of the delusion that we are the actors, the doers, or that we are in any way responsible, ultimately, for the fruits of the action. They don't belong to us. So Karma Yoga practices a kind of renunciation, offering the doership and its results to the Atman. Raja Yoga, on the other hand, seems superficially to be more dualistic in that it embraces the doership and the fruits of the action and purifies them. And so in that purification process, the Raja Yogi comes to understand that they are the Atman, the author of all of this, and not the actor or the doer. That's the subtle difference between Karma Yoga and Raja Yoga.
Thank you.
Does that
Thank
get
you.
it?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Anything else from anyone?
Yeah. Mind, body, and soul. Right? That's three. So where mind resides is toward body or toward the soul?
Well, the mind is part of the mind-body complex. The mind is the Atman is entirely, so to speak, separate from that. The mind and the 5 organs of action and perception, 5 organs of action, 5 organs of perception, are creations of the Atman for its own purposes. It's rooted in this statement in the Chandogya Upanishad, I am one, I shall body myself forth as many. Now, according to the Jnana yogis, nothing ever happened. A dream began, a dream of manyness. This is the dream. We are living the dream. As Vivekananda said, we are infinite dreamers, dreaming finite dreams. So there is no mind in the way that we normally think of our mind and talk of our mind. Of course, there is the cosmic mind, but that's beyond thought and speech. As it's said in Breaker of This World's Chain, Kandana Bhavana, speech cannot hold thee nor mind, yet without thee we think not nor speak. In other words, it is the author of our ability to think and speak, that which seems to be our mind and our organs of action. Anything else? This is good. This is what we're here for. Yes, please, speak up.
Shankara, I'm not sure I understood you. Did you say that as far as Raja Yoga goes, that one realizes that the Atman is the author, but not the doer?
The author, the doer, author and doer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what's meant by the word author in this sense.
And the doer. Okay, I misunderstood. Thank you.
Yes, it is the only, but as these action and experience suits, we are the instrument of that. And all of the power that enables us to think, speak, and act comes from the Atman. That's a key principle of Raja Yoga, and for that matter, Karma Yoga, and for that matter, Bhakti Yoga as well. There's a philosophical difference as far as Jnana Yoga goes. Anything else from anyone, please?
Brother Shankara,
Yes.
Manjula from Virginia, thank you. You probably explained this before, and I would like to listen again. If we are not the owners or doers, how do we reconcile good intentions and good actions versus bad intentions and bad actions? Don't we have some responsibility for them?
As long as you feel that you are a separate being, as long as your self-awareness is of that of a separate being, with its own ego and its own intellect and its own mind and so on, yes, indeed, you are responsible. The moment that condition is transcended and you see, that separate being is a delusion. It is a dream. It is a creation of the Atman. Then all actions then come under the authorship of the Atman. Their responsibility belongs to the Atman, and the fruits belong to the Atman. This is the key idea of karma yoga. But as we feel we're separate, then we must take responsibility, and we experience the effects of the karma of our good and bad actions.
So does it mean that most of humanity is not there? So we do.
Most of us are afraid of the world.
So some are really bad and the criminals, and so how do we? I'm trying to reconcile that.
Because they are so immersed in ignorance, dear. They're so immersed in ignorance. They think they must do these things to make themselves happy. Vivekananda, Ramakrishna are very clear about this. The murderer acts out of a misguided self-interest.
Then punishment is not the answer if we think spiritually, like you're saying. Redemption and spirituality are the answers. The punishment, do you think, is making it worse?
That the short answer to that, of course, is yes. Rehabilitation, redemption. You can listen to any number of spiritual teachers who have as part of their sadhana, their spiritual journey, working with prisoners. You can see clearly that they make a difference. And when insight meditation, which is set apart, there is no overt spiritual content to insight meditation. When insight meditation is taught in prisons, it absolutely has remarkable effects on more than half of the prisoners who learn it. So yes, punishment simply compounds the difficulty because it creates anger and resentment. But that too is the karma of these. It is the karma of ignorance. Krishna explains very, very clearly in the chapter Divine and Demonic Tendencies of the Gita how people find themselves in this state. And it's simply a matter of ignorance. As Vivekananda says, there's no difference between you and any other being in the universe, a worm or a murderer or whatever, than the degree of your ignorance, which is what spiritual practice, that's what we're doing here this morning, is practicing our ability not to be ignorant. Yes?
Which is, we are as human beings doing something that it seems no other living thing in the universe has to do, which is unlearn our ignorance.
Mhm.
I mean, we're the ones that are ignorant. We're supposed to be the highest evolved, and we may be spiritually or not. I don't know about that. But we are different because we come in with all this ignorance.
Yes.
And
And it was deliberately created.
well,
We created it so that we could do this.
we as not,
We as the Atman.
we as the Atman.
I am one, I shall body myself forth as many. That cosmic intelligence, which is the Atman, that cosmic intelligence knows perfectly well the implications of manifestation and manyness. It requires that that one become ignorant. As Saint Teresa of Avila said so beautifully, it is only in us that God is so confused that he asks questions. So let us ask our questions. There is only one here, though it appears to be many. It appears to us to be many because that's the way we want it. We want to do and create and share, and therefore this is what. Now, must it be so limited? No. The great souls of this world who've given us their teachings prove to us that you can still be embodied and not be so limited. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. That could be said to any of the great masters. It was addressed by Vivekananda to Sri Ramakrishna, but it could be as easily said by St. Peter to Christ, by Ananda to Buddha. By Lakshmana to Rama, or to any of the feminine forms, by Rama to Sita, to Krishna, from Krishna to Radha. As you could read that Sri Ramakrishna did to Sharada Devi.
As you mentioned, Bhagavan Buddha, Patanjali wrote Ashtanga Yoga, right? And Swami Vivekananda interpreted in a Western world as a Raj Yoga. So, what is the connection between Bhagavan Buddha's Ashtanga eightfold path? He also has eightfold path.
The Eightfold Path of Patanjali is very different from the Eightfold Path.
So there is no similarity. Okay.
No direct similarity, no. The Eightfold Path of Buddha, as Vivekananda very beautifully explained in his talks on this, is the most refined and highest expression of karma. The Buddha was the ultimate in compassionate practice of karma. Raja Yoga is about controlling the mind, as we'll hear a bit later in this talk, about controlling the thought waves of the mind. Buddha's Eightfold Path is, though it will have that effect ultimately, It is about controlling your actions. Patanjali's teachings are about controlling your attention.
Gaurav has a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, brother. I was listening to the discourse about like the convicts and murderers and whatnot. Well, and since we are talking about Gautam Buddha and also about the Eightfold Path and whatnot, so
Well,
I think it was.
let's please not divert ourselves into talking. Otherwise, we'll never get this talk given this morning.
Okay.
I'll be willing to answer a question, but please let's not divert ourselves into discussion of Buddhism this morning. So
Okay.
What is your question?
Yeah, my question is, well, Gautam Buddha said that we create our own hell, kind of thing. It is we who create the hell.
Yes,
There's nothing
we
called the hell.
we as the divine presence.
Yeah, so I was trying to relate to it, and I thought that's a little bit of the Raja Yoga philosophy right there. Means we are creating it ourselves. It's not.
Well, it is the fundamental idea of all
Sure.
religious philosophy.
Okay.
If you dig deep, you will see that it is the divine presence that says, in the form of these great teachers, I'm doing everything. As Christ says in the Gospel of Thomas, split a piece of wood, I am there. Turn over a rock, you shall find me. So it's not as if there's any mystery about it. It's just that in our ignorance, we get confused about who's doing what. And so we misplace our allegiance and therefore our attention.
Like in our Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna tells like Arjuna he was hesitant about fighting his own cousins and killing and all these things, and then he says that this too is this is your karma, this is your work, you have to do it.
Not only that, but it's your ignorance that you think that you're the killer or that they are killed. There is no such thing as death.
Yeah.
I mean, this was part of that song that was sung in the start of this morning. There is no such thing as death. We shed this action and experience suit, and if we're still in the mood, we take another one. That's it, right there. We just shed this thing.
Yes, we're born into these suits.
I mean, Sri Krishna is so explicit about it in talking to Arjuna in chapter 2. If you think you're the killer, you're mistaken. If you think they die, you're mistaken. They were dead before they ever were born, if you want to think about it that way.
To me, that is like, I don't know, the capital punishment and no capital punishment. That's that debate that keeps on happening all the time. So it's kind of both sides of the same coin, really.
No.
Well, from one perspective, what right does this human form have to take the life of another human form?
Yeah.
I think that the Gita is, it's information for people who are at least on a spiritual path.
I believe so too. I think if you're spiritually inclined, then you probably wouldn't be doing things.
Yeah. I mean,
as you said, the ignorance part. Yeah.
It can be dangerous information in the wrong hands.
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, trust me.
and has been.
Oh, And Swami Vivekananda in his works has said that many times over, actually.
Yes. And it's one of the reasons that in times past, though it was misguided in many ways, the Brahmins kept this knowledge to themselves in India.
Oh, absolutely.
And for that matter, the wisdom cults in Greece and Egypt and Rome and so on kept this knowledge to themselves. You had to qualify to be given this kind of knowledge. Vivekananda came and said, it's time to throw the doors wide open
Yes.
and tell
Totally.
all to everyone and let them make of it what they can. Do
Yes.
most people listen? How many people are with us this morning? Perhaps 35, including the people who are here in the room and the people online. It isn't that there's anything wrong with that or that there's anything wrong with the people who aren't here. It's just that there's a very big difference between those who have the motivation to study the art of spirituality, particularly those who desire to study it together as we're doing. So anything else?
Yeah, I was thinking about this concept of love and that's its relationship to you being not the doer. I've been writing a lot of love poetry recently, and it's all romantically guided, right? So is it not me that's doing that, or is it that the desire for love?
What do you think?
I don't know.
Well,
I have no idea.
Do you feel as if yourself to be a separate being?
Sometimes.
Looking for another separate being?
Yeah.
All right. Then it is that aspect of love, the human aspect of love, that is being expressed. It is a pale reflection of the divine love. But as human beings, until we do the necessary to experience divine love, we are naturally going to wish to love and be loved in a human sense. Is there anything wrong with it? Not unless we do harm to others in our possessiveness and jealousy and things like that.
Or harm to ourselves.
Or harm to ourselves by being not honest about our feelings. Thank you. The only thing that exists, if we take it to its foundation, is Satchidananda. Existence absolute, knowledge absolute, and love or bliss absolute. But ipso facto, anything that partakes of existence is a reflection of that. Anything that partakes of knowledge is a reflection of that. Anything that partakes of love is a reflection of that. And so it is, as Swami Vivekananda said, we do not move from error to truth. We move, if you will, from lesser truth to higher truth. So human love, romantic love, is a lesser truth than the highest truth. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It just means that there is not yet the motivation to seek the higher truth. Yes, dear.
Seeking the higher truth, I feel like sometimes gets caught up in these different models.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that trying to make the map the territory. Like I hold up a big paper map for those of you who were born back when we had paper maps. And I say, this is the United States of America. And you say, no, it's a piece of paper with a bunch of marks on it, which is correct. You can't, I mean, the models like Satchidananda even. I mean, to me, those are not three different things.
No, of course they're not.
I know you'll say they're not, but the fact that they are presented as three things, as this trinity, is like the Christian trinity, is all these trinities. It's like, why split it up into three?
That's just your left mind objecting, dear.
No,
Just
it's
go
my,
to, no,
it's my
yes,
right
it is.
mind going, it's all one.
Well,
So quit this.
So
cut it out.
so stick with the right mind
Okay,
and leave the objection be.
okay. Well, this is what we're doing here.
Otherwise, there's nothing for us to talk about.
That's
That's
so true.
right. Here we go. Okay, time's over. Bye, everyone.
Good point.
And I'll be perfectly content.
Singularity.
I'll be perfectly content with that. But without a map, I would not have found my way from Los Angeles to Tucker. So we need these maps as long as we are ignorant of that deep truth that you expressed as the absolute inescapability of the fact that there's no such thing as Satchidananda. It's just a pointing at the moon. It isn't the moon.
But the great thing is when you get lost, even with that map, and you just throw the map in the back seat, like some people do, and all of a sudden, magically, you find your way where you're going.
Okay, I'll
That's not you.
I'll take refuge in the word magically.
Okay.
Yes?
This conversation reminds me, it's funny because we were talking about Ram Dass earlier. He has this saying that methods, which are the means that we use to try to get to where we're trying to go, are at the same time helpful. They're traps. And one is a method is to bring you through the method and then build the method up.
Yes.
So that makes me think of what you guys are talking about.
Well, absolutely. A Raja Yogi doesn't practice the yamas after having achieved liberation. There's nothing to know about that.
Brother Shankara,
Yes?
good morning.
Good morning.
I had a question. What
Yes?
does it mean when you just want to be quiet? It's just as though you experience the thoughts, but you know the thoughts and you just don't want to say anything. Even when you're expected to, I guess, but you just feel like there's nothing to say, almost.
Well, that can be a very blissful state. But as long as we're embodied and we have duties to perform, then we usually have to break our silence.
Yes.
But the prayer that will be said at the end of this talk, the end of this talk, says, lead us from this place of relentless noise and endless change to thine abode of serenity, silence, and peace. But as long as we're embodied, we're probably not going to be able to stay there. There are a few, like Trilanga Swami, that Sri Ramakrishna encountered in Benares. I think that was his name. Maybe it was Trilanga. Anyway, in any event, he didn't say a mumbling word. He barely ate, and yet he radiated the divine presence so that people flocked to be with him. It just depends on what you're willing to renounce if you're going to be in that state.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Brother Shankara.
Yes, Fred.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Being kind of new at all this, I appreciate any maps you throw out, but I also kind of get the fact that other people might, as you get more and more along the path, maybe it's kind of like a musician who at the beginning, he's always practicing his scales. Then he goes to songs that other people do, and then eventually he might write his own songs, right? So,
Yes.
But I appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Yes. Oh, this is doing it together. There's no discouragement of anyone's comments. Everyone should feel free to do this together. There is only one being here. It may seem to speak through many mouths, but there's only one wisdom, one truth, one being here. All right. Pointing directly at the knowledge to be gained, the goal of human life, Vivekananda wrote, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. Swami Vivekananda wrote the book Raja Yoga as a commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It was published in 1896. It was published in 1896 and soon became an international bestseller. In the preface, Swamiji said, Raja Yoga declares that each human being is only a conduit for the infinite ocean of knowledge and power that lies behind humankind. It teaches that desires and wants are in the human being, but the power of supply is also in that human being, and that whatever and whenever a desire, a want, a prayer has been fulfilled, it was out of this infinite storehouse that the supply came, and not from any supernatural being. There is no supernatural, says the yogi. Instead, there are in nature gross manifestations and subtle manifestations. The subtle are the causes, the gross the effects. The gross can be easily perceived by the senses, not so the subtle. The practice of Raja Yoga will lead to the acquisition of the more subtle perceptions. The practice of Raja Yoga will lead to the acquisition of the more subtle perceptions. That last sentence is a huge promise with even bigger implications. Once causes are understood, their effects can be changed. This yields relief from the bondage of the small self, the sense of separateness, since even thoughts are the effects of subtle causes. So as we explore some of Swamiji's and Patanjali's other teachings, there will be emphasis on the spiritual growth that can come from the practice of Raja Yoga. This ancient prayer speaks to the Atman within you, to that ocean of knowledge and power that Swamiji said lies behind humankind. This is the prayer. You are the source of infinite energy. Fill me with that energy. You are the source of infinite strength. Endow me with that strength. You are the source of infinite courage. Inspire me with that courage. You are the source of infinite fortitude. Grant me that fortitude. And from the Katha Upanishad, it is but few who hear about the self. Fewer still will dedicate their lives to its realization. Wonderful is the one who speaks of the self. Rare are they who make it the supreme goal of their life. Blessed are they who, through an illumined teacher, attain to self-realization. Patanjali and Swami Vivekananda are illumined teachers. We gather each week to help each other overcome our human limitations and be free. It is a great joy to share this knowledge with one another. Let's recall something Swami Chinmoyananda said. What I do not know, I cannot think about. The present boundaries of my knowledge are the outermost frontiers to which my mind can run and pervade. What I do not know, I cannot think about. The present boundaries of my knowledge are the outermost frontiers to which my mind can run and pervade. It follows that as knowledge is drawn from within you by what you learn and experience through your spiritual practices, the frontiers of your mind will expand. What before seemed impossible may begin to appear as a possibility, something you can indeed bring within your grasp. You come to understand what you did not know before. This knowledge prompts you to think, speak, and act differently, which is the definition of spiritual progress. Raja Yoga, the yoga of psychic control, of meditation and other special techniques, is one gateway to your birthright, one path by which you can overcome the world. You will know the truth, said Jesus, and the truth will set you free. According to Patanjali, what is yoga? According to Patanjali, yoga is control of thought waves in the mind. What does yoga achieve by this control? You gain the ability to abide in your real nature and live and act in the world from that inner sanctuary. According to Patanjali, what is yoga? Control of thought waves in the mind. What does that control achieve? You gain the ability to abide in your real nature and to live and act in the world from that inner sanctuary. What is your real, your true original nature? Atman, the eternal, unborn, and undying. Atman, the eternal, unborn and undying, invincible and indestructible Atman, which is one with Brahman. So how does Raja Yoga get you from here, quite literally, here and now, this Sunday morning, to realization of your true original nature? You may think to yourself, oh, don't even tell me. That sounds like such a long, rough road from here today to realization. What will I gain more quickly than I would otherwise from the persistent practice of yoga? That is a very legitimate question. Here is part of the answer. A summary of Raja Yoga, which Swami Vivekananda said he freely translated from one of the Puranas. Quote, "The fire of yoga burns the cage of ignorance and error that surrounds a human being. Knowledge becomes purified, and nirvana is directly obtained. From yoga comes knowledge. Knowledge again helps the yogi. Knowledge becomes purified and nirvana is directly attained. From yoga comes knowledge. Knowledge again helps the yogi. We can take the inner subtle knowledge of cause and effect gained by Raja Yoga's practices and turn it into action in the world. As Swami Swahananda said, the only true measure of spiritual progress is change in behavior. And Swami Yatishwarananda told his disciple, Swami Yogeshananda, for every one step forward spiritually, you must take 2 steps forward, morally and ethically. As we conclude, let's review. Practice of yoga can allow you to understand what Swami Vivekananda says when he writes, "There is no supernatural," says the yogi. Instead, there are in nature gross manifestations and subtle manifestations. The subtle are the causes, the gross the effects. The gross can be easily perceived by the senses, not so the subtle. The practice of Raja Yoga will lead to the acquisition of the more subtle perceptions. Once causes are understood, their effects can be changed, since your every thought and action is the effect of subtle causes. As you gain these more subtle perceptions, as you know things you did not know or understand before, here's an example. You can feel the living presence in your heart, which is, as Sri Ramakrishna remarked, the drawing of God. You feel that living presence. This is the difference between Patanjali and pure Sankhya. Patanjali admits of this living presence, this personal being within you. This knowledge allows you, actually prompts you, as you gain these more subtle perceptions, you come to know things that you did not understand before. For example, you feel the living presence in your heart, which is, as Sri Ramakrishna said, the heart is the drawing room of God. This knowledge allows you, actually prompts you to think, speak, and act differently, which is the very definition of spiritual progress. Anything to add from your own wisdom or to ask for clarification about what has been said?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Yes, I wanted to clarify when you were reading from a while earlier, what are the subtle causes of a thought? And also another question is the thought waves and the thoughts. The thought waves, do they precede the thought, or a primary thought creates more thought waves? Which one is true?
First, what are the subtle? The subtle are the samskaras. They are the contents of first our waking awareness, and then as we come through the practice of Raja Yoga, practice of concentration and meditation, we come to inventory the contents of our waking awareness. Then, as we proceed more deeply and we sink into the silence, we become aware of our of our active subconscious. This is where those samskaras that reside, that prompt our thoughts, which then turn into speech, action. So the thought waves are prompted by the effect of the gunas, the effects of these winds of creation and recreation, creation, projection, and transformation, the three gunas, the effects of those as they touch on our samskaras, those mental impressions that are left from our previous existence, however you define that. So the thought waves are generated by the effect of the gunas on the samskaras. When we begin to see those samskaras, then we are aware of the subtle causes. These are the samskaras. Ultimately, we come to a feeling that we are seeing our latent subconscious, those things that are very ancient with us and actually have produced in large measure the physical form that we are.
And my second question was the thoughts and the thought waves. Okay, the thought waves come before the actual thought comes, and also, is it true that
the thought waves are the thought. The cause is this influence of the gunas on the samskaras.
Okay, are the thought waves same as the vrittis? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, So is it true that one primary thought creates other secondary thoughts in the mind? It's like very
If you allow it to, yes.
okay,
That's called a train of thought.
okay,
You can restrain this tendency once you've learned to control your attention.
okay. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You bet.
Brother
Anything else?
Shankara, just
Yes.
following up on Nira's question. So as far as first part, you said these are ancient vibrations, if you will, that
These mental
that-
intentions, yes.
sorry, one more time.
The actually below this collection of samskaras is something that is technically called vasana. It's a collection of samskaras that produce a particular tendency within us. So these are a collection of samskaras that produce a tendency to be tall or short, or heavy or light, or all kinds of physical aspects, and it also has all kinds of psychic and mental attributes as well. So I'm sorry, I interrupted your question.
No, I mean, actually, you kind of went there. I was just going to ask if these were vibrations. And as far as gaining control, we witness them as they pass, almost like that's one way I've, seen, like, it's like the ripple. You kind of watch how the ripple forms slowly, slowly. And then, but then the source of the ripple, how do we pull that plant out of its root?
We don't pull it out by its roots. We simply stop watering it with our attention. So it withers and dies. It doesn't entirely go away until final realization.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara, I kind of relate that what Divya said and what your answer to her was. Like you said, we never release it. It's just like the prarabdha karma. We never release it. It goes on from one life to another form of life.
No, the prarabdha karma is a defined set of vibrations that have brought this particular jiva into being. When those vibrations are exhausted, then this garment is disposed of. Then, as I said, if you're in the mood to take on another garment, then the karma that you have accumulated becomes a new prarabdha karma for that entity, that appearance of an entity. So your prarabdha karma is something that is the arrow that is in the air for this lifetime.
I see.
When its energy is expended, it either has struck a target and so expended its energy that way. That's one way to think about spiritual practice. Or it simply exhausts itself, and like an arrow in flight, once its energy is expended, if it hasn't hit a target, it simply falls to the ground. That's what happens with our food body and our prana body, Annamaya kosha and Pranamaya kosha. Those fall to the ground,
Mhm.
sometimes quite literally.
Mhm.
So parabdha karma flies like an arrow and fruit flies like a banana.
Yeah, that's, thank you, Groucho. Oh, that's a great. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana.
Okay, so I was mistaken about prarabdha karma. Was it belongs to only one lifetime, and then we create new prarabdha karma for the next life.
You don't create the karma, dear.
Oh no, I mean it goes with my subtle
Stop
body.
it, stop it, stop it.
No, I
You
don't create it.
nothing.
It goes with the Atman. Yes.
The Atman has created that, and since that Atman still is indulging in ignorance,
Mhm.
it may be in the mood to take another human form, and so then the karma that was accumulated by the prior human form becomes the prarabdha karma of the new human form. But all of these classifications, all of these left brain definitions, they don't serve us very well. You know? So we know about that. Okay, we've got another box with some information in it. It's best that we don't think of karma much at all. It's not ours. As jivas, as this thing which breathes.
Mhm.
This is what generates our fear. That's what's said in the first verse of that song. Most of us are afraid of this world we've made, with its yes and no and karma's blows and temptation's parade. These are the things that attract our attention. Yes, no. Karma's going to do this, did that. Temptation this, temptation that. All these distractions. Well, yes, the world is hard and mean. It can be a heart attack machine.
I mean, to simplify is like you said, don't pay attention to karma, but do live a righteous life, dharma, do your dharma.
Well, as Swami Shivananda pointed out, you don't have to worry about dharma at all if you're living a life centered in the divine. It takes care of itself.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a definition of Vivekananda gave about the God. God is nothing but sum of all souls, correct? That's what he said.
Yes.
Creator is God, sum of all soul. And if it is sum of all soul, why should I fear?
Exactly. As Hafiz said, each soul is dear to God because, as God told Hafiz, each soul completes me. Each soul completes me. So yes, exactly that. Anything else from anyone? All right. Well, for those of you who aren't fully aware of this, there is the opportunity, if you come to actually be present in the chapel this morning, we can go in the monastery and there will be some snacks and the opportunity to make some tea or coffee. So I'll conclude with this ancient prayer and then tune. First, this ancient prayer for peace. Let there be peace in outer space.
Let there be peace in outer space.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
May the gods be peaceful.
May the gods be peaceful.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being.
Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Om Hari Om. Om Asatoma Satgamaya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. Oh, dearly beloved, lead us from this place of endless change and relentless noise to thine abode of serenity, silence, and peace. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. Go in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So, as you all heard the announcements in the beginning, there will be classes for the rest of this month, the rest of July. Then we will be dark for the month of August. No classes, no talks. And I will not celebrate Arati. You are invited, if you are an initiated devotee, to volunteer to do Arati, evening Arati, either here in the chapel or at your own home shrine. It won't be Zoomed. It will simply be, it will be done by someone each day. The Ramakrishna configured, the Ramakrishna order configured Arati that is done here, or some very close approximation there. So you're encouraged, if you're so disposed and are initiated, to look on the website or look in your newsletter and send a communication saying that you would like to volunteer for a particular day or days in August. Thank you much, everyone. Swami Vivekananda's Raja Yogi. I could have hoped to have been in better voice to sing that song this morning.
It was beautiful.
Well, thank you, dear.
Bye, lovely sweeties.
Bye-bye, all.
Hi, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
All right.